ahead of us, some really great songwriting workshops coming right up. So we'll close this moment. Go grab yourself some water, some tea, listen to Reveille Radio, and we'll come back for a really awesome workshop coming right up. Bye.
Yeah, guys, we'll get started again here in about 10 minutes.
First off, by one of my favorite Nashville songwriters, Mr. Gary Burr, is going to give us our first presentation. Gary is a songwriter and a producer. He's been writing for publishing companies for years and years, as long as I've known him, and has also participated a number of times in a wonderful program called Songwriting with Soldiers. He is one of, I believe, 3 presenters that we'll have this week who've worked with that program, and hopefully they can talk a little bit more towards that. But without further ado, I'll let Gary take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm assuming you can all hear me, and happy to be here this morning. Right, I'm a songwriter from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm trying to see where a chat thing is so that I can talk to people, but I'm not seeing one.
Gary, it should be right at the very bottom of the screen. You'll have a little pop-up that says chat.
Okay. Got it. Okay, that almost makes it too easy. All right. Hey, everybody. So I'm a songwriter in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm originally from Connecticut. I went to Woodstock when I was a kid, the original Woodstock. And I sat there with this guy that I barely knew but he had a car. So I was able to glom a ride with him to go to Woodstock. And by the end of the festival, we had both decided that we were going to go back to town and start a band. And I played a little guitar, but not much. And he was a drummer. So we went back to town. I worked on my guitar, and we started a band. And we played, Beatles and Stones and Byrds and all that stuff. And we realized at some point that every band that we played their songs, the guitar player wrote those songs. So they all basically turned to me and said, I think you're supposed to write our songs. So I didn't have any other better plan for the rest of my life. So I said, all right, I will write the songs. And the first songs I wrote were just awful. And they were basically ripping off other songs. But that's part of the process. That's a really good, valuable part of the process. You find songs you like and you try to imitate them. Your own voice will come later on. But in the beginning, it's very helpful to imitate other songs. Listen to them, analyze them, try to figure out, copy the chords, change one chord, but basically just rewrite that song in the beginning. Nobody cares. In the beginning, the songs you're writing are rarely going to go beyond your circle of friends and people that share your DNA. So it's a good process. They always say that Hank Williams, when he started writing songs, he would take old traditional songs and write new words to them. And then he would throw out the music and write new music to the words he just wrote. And then he'd have a totally new song. So anyway, there I was, 18, 19 years old, writing songs. And, I went through the normal process of getting a little better all the time. I actually was able to get a record deal and put an album out. And that, my record company went out of business a week after my record came out. Purely coincidence, I tell myself today. And the people that were working with me basically said, why don't we try to sell your songs while we're looking for another record deal? And I thought that was a great idea. And 40 years later, I'm still waiting for the record deal. And I didn't get it, but the songwriting thing worked out. The closest I got to a record deal was when I moved to Nashville, I put a band together to play showcases. all the labels come and they watch you, and hopefully if they like what you do, they give you a record deal. And I had this great band with a piano and a steel player and a female singer and this and that. And we played all these showcases and nobody cared. Until one night I decided this was my last one. I'm playing the Bluebird for one final one. If this doesn't work, I'm done trying to get a record deal. So I played that night, and all the labels showed up. And when the show was over, all the labels went home, except Warner Brothers. A lady from Warner Brothers sat there, and I went over and talked to her and said, you know, did you like the show? And are you interested in making an offer? And she said, yes, I definitely love the show, and I'm interested in making an offer. I would love to be introduced to your female background singer because I want to give her a record deal. So that's the closest I ever came to a record deal, but that is how Faith Hill got her record deal. So you guys at least owe me a little bit. Anyway, there I was, no record deal. Back in Connecticut, I was an electrician. And every night I would come home and go to my basement and try to write a song that would make it where I did not have to wake up the next day and crawl through insulation looking for wires. So one day I was sitting there and I was just learning the guitar enough that there were still things about it I did not know. And I played an E chord, and I suddenly was messing around, and I realized that if you go certain places up the neck and you don't have to change how your fingers are, it sounds really cool. Certain places don't, but certain places on the neck sound really, really cool with just an E chord. So I said, well, that's cool. I'm going to try to write a song using that. And then the other thing was it was in a period where I was writing all these long 42 verses and no point Dylan songs or Neil Young songs. They just went on forever. So I sat down that day. I was out on my kid's swing set, and I said, I'm going to write a dumb song, a repetitive song. All the songs on the radio, a lot of them, the chorus is one line sung over and over. And people are selling those songs. So I said, that combination, I'm going to use this new thing that I discovered. And I really thought I had discovered this. I was tempted to run in the house and call Chet Atkins and say, you know, I don't know if you know this, Chet, but you can go up the fret and it sounds amazing. So I wrote this song, try to be as simple as possible, use something fresh and new on the guitar that you hadn't heard before. And I wrote this song, and it ended up being recorded, and it ended up being a hit on pop radio, and it put 2 kids through college, it paid for 3 divorces, and it's an amazing thing when the bolt of lightning hits you. And this is a little of that song that I wrote. See, just going up the neck. Well, I've got enough to be ashamed of. Love's been a little bit hard on me. If I shy away, it's only because love's been a little bit hard on me. Love's been a little bit hard on me. Love's been a little bit hard on me. So that song goes up to like number 5 on the pop charts, and I'm on the pop charts with, you know, Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder, and the cool thing about that song was it was also not only the first song I ever recorded, and they spelled my name wrong on the record, but it was also the first song I ever had reviewed. Billboard magazine said that song was dumb but infectious, which coincidentally was my nickname in college. So, boom, I have a hit. And now, all of a sudden, I have people that want to help me, that want to do this and that. I found some mentors that knew people, and we started sending my songs to Nashville, New York, and California, and LA. And LA was like becoming all synthesizer music. And New York was becoming much more urban than this guy. So I ended up we ended up sending songs to Nashville, and they were just different enough. And that's really something that's very critical. They were different enough that people in Nashville, they didn't have anybody else writing the way I did, because I didn't know country music. My mom had an 8-track in her car of Eddie Arnold and Glenn Campbell, and that's what I thought country music was. Basically, every song I wrote, I was just trying to rip off the Beatles in some form. And that made everything that went to Nashville from this guy in Connecticut different. And that's what you want. You want your songs to be different. You got to figure, at any given time, a song about how much you love your partner. There's a million other songs out there about that. So either you have to find a way to sing that is, and write it that is totally different, or you're just going to be on the pile of 900,000 other love songs, a good portion of which are written by guys like me, where publishing companies have invested a lot of money, so they're going to be first in line when the Martina McBrides or the Kenny Chesneys come looking for a love song. So over the years, I've written thousands of songs. I came down here. I've had 15 number one songs. I'm in the Country Songwriter Hall of Fame. It's been an amazing run, and I have given a lot of talks like this about how to write songs. And I feel like I have a sense of how it can be done. I always like to say I can teach anybody to write a song. I can't teach you to write a great song, but I can teach you to write a song because it's tools. When you have the tools, you can construct a song. A song is like building a house. In the beginning, you want to work on building the simplest house you can. You don't try anything fancy. You build a nice one-room house with a roof that stays up and windows that don't fall out when the wind blows. And you write 100 of those until you can write those in your sleep. Then you say, all right, I'm going to try writing a song that's a house that is a room with a spare bedroom and a kitchen. And then after 100 of those, that'll be second nature. You'll always be able to write that. Then you try to write one with a second floor and a billiard room and a library and some sort of place to do your vivisections. And before you know it, those are pretty much in your back pocket. You have all the tools you need. So if you have all the tools you need eventually to write any kind of song you want, then you're just waiting for that inspired moment that makes that song special, or spatial, as we say in Connecticut. So one thing that makes songwriters different is we perceive the world differently. We are always aware of potential song ideas, song titles. We read books differently. We watch TV shows differently. We have conversations differently. Everything we read or hear on a show or a movie, if somebody says a certain phrase, our mind either grabs at or goes, ooh, if he had said it this way, that would have been an interesting song idea, title. And, if you guys are writers, you fill up books with those ideas. You keep a pad next to you in your car, or you put them in your phone, and you have all those ideas. That's very important. You should never read a magazine or a book without coming away with song ideas. I can force song ideas out of an ad in a Time magazine because there's got to be one word in there where you say, you force yourself. I actually, a song that I had success with, I was bored on a Sunday, and I said, I'm going to write a song. I'm going to flip open a page in a magazine and put my finger down, and wherever my finger lands, that's the title of my song. So I had, I cleared all the porn off the coffee table, and I had a Mojo magazine, and I open it up, and it's an interview with Steve Earle, and I stick my finger down, And he's talking about how his tour bus pulled up in front of the Alamo in San Antonio. And the band was talking about how Ozzy Osbourne once got arrested for peeing on the side of the Alamo. And they were laughing, if that's not allowed, they really need to put up signs saying, please don't do that. But so I don't know whose fault that really was, the government or Ozzy. But I had my job. I had to write a song called In Front of the Alamo. So I'm thinking, all right, I think every song at its core is a love song. I don't care if you're writing about a car or a tree or whatever. Somewhere in there you have to write it as a love song. Love lost, love gained, whatever. It's a love song. So I'm going, how do I write a love song called In Front of the Alamo? So I go, well, I don't want it to be a historical, I love my country, so I died, in the Alamo. So I wrote this song with that title, which I made myself write. It goes like this. In front of the Alamo, in the fading light of a Texas day, San Antonio, through the windshield of a Chevrolet, with her front tires pointed out of town, she sighs and rolls the window down, counts to 3 and throws that wedding band. In front of the Alamo, that's a pretty good place to make a stand. See, all I did was I just made it a love song about a woman that pulls up in a car at a light, is making the decision right now that her relationship doesn't work and she's done with it. And basically she looks over to her left and goes, oh, there's the Alamo. But it's still an integral third character in it because something about that inspires her to make the move she needs to make. The trick is, every time you get an idea for a song or a song title, what I like to do is I like to metaphorically put that song idea in a room, and picture this room, and it's a circle, and all around the room are windows. Even in the roof, there's windows, and you can walk around and look through the windows, and you're looking at this idea going, oh, well, this idea is about boom. Well, that's your first instinct, and maybe first instincts are not the cleverest or the most unique. So you walk around, you look in the window and you see a man and a woman hugging, and you go, oh, it's a love story. I'm going to write a love song. And then you walk around a few windows and you look in and you see that the guy's got a butcher knife behind his back. And you're going, oh, this is a murder about to happen. Uh-oh. Okay, totally different song now. And then you keep walking around until you see, now you're from this angle, you see behind them is a table with a turkey on. Oh, it's Thanksgiving. He's getting ready to carve the turkey and she's wishing him luck that he keeps all his fingers. So right there, just walking around looking in 3 windows. Now you still got the roof to look through. And every time I write a song, I sit and, physically, not physically because I'd be exhausted, I'd look like this. I'm only 27. So basically, you metaphorically, you walk around the windows and you look in them and you just think of all the different ways you could perceive one visual or one idea. The next thing that's important is something that I call the North Star. The North Star is my version of what a lot of people in the writing industry and the entertainment industry call the elevator pitch. If you've ever taken a songwriting class, you know what I'm talking about. The idea that you have this great idea for a movie and you happen to find yourself on an elevator with the head of the studio and you've only got 4 floors to tell him your pitch and convince him. So you got to say it in 5 words. What is your movie about in 5 words? Die hard in a submarine. Those 5 words tell you, I know that movie. I know how it starts. Guy visits his brother who's a sailor on a submarine, and all of a sudden he's going to the bathroom, and while he goes to the bathroom, terrorists come on, and they take it, and they sail off, and he's there, and he's going to save everybody from the terrorists, picking them off one by one until the end, and they come back, and he's a hero. you know the whole movie from 5 words. Every time you write a song and you have that idea and you've walked around the building, that's when you want to figure out what the North Star is. How do you crystallize this down to 5 or 6 words? Bridge over troubled waters. In shit, I'm there. I try to crystallize it to 5, 6 words, and I write those words at the top of the page of what I'm writing. Now you got to remember that every song, I mean, what does a song have? 26, 27 lines? And most of those are repeats for choruses. Your job is, every line you write in this song, now you have to say, does it have anything to do with the North Star? Does it point to the North Star? You know, how is this? What does this have to do with this? And writing a song that's keyed on to a North Star keeps you from wasting any lines. You can have poetry in a song. You can have adjectives and adverbs as much as you want, but you've got to tell your story. I once wrote years ago with a female artist who was writing. And she played me this song that she was so proud of. And at the end of the song, she was very young. At the end of the song, she looked at me beaming. And I just looked at her and I tried to be kind, but I said, I'm having trouble figuring out what's the point. And she looked at me and she thought for a minute, and then she said, I didn't know it was supposed to have one. And the song was beautiful. It had all this imagery. But in the end, I could not tell you what it was about. And all the best songs out there are songs that you know what they're trying to tell you, a basic core. Like I said with Bridge Over Troubled Waters. If you take songs that you've written and you sit down with them and figure out the North Star and write it down, write down what the North Star is. And then look through your lyrics and try to find out how many lines you wrote that have nothing to do with that. They were pretty, they were this, they were that. I'm not saying throw it away, but put it back in the book for a song that it does have something to do with. So that is a very important thing, the North Star, the elevator pitch. If you don't have a firm idea, I used to write with a guy who was like the dean of country songwriting, Harlan Howard. And his attitude always was, if you don't have a great idea to write, walk out of the building and find alcohol and drink. Because you're better off spending the day doing that than hunting to try to write down a song that you have no firm idea of what the target is you're aiming at. And that could be a really tough day and discourage you. So, you know, there's a lot of other elements. Once you have your idea, the next thing you want to think about is you want to think about, what style song is this supposed to be? You know, if you've got a sad idea, I know these seem kind of elementary. If you have a really sad idea, then obviously it's not going to be a polka. But on the other hand, there's some really famous, successful songs that are sort of counter-programming. And you should try that. 2 tricks I like to do is I like to write sad songs peppy, and I like to, you know, and what I like to do is if I'm writing, if I know I'm going to write a fast song, once I have the idea for the song and I have the North Star, I will spend all day writing it as a ballad. Because when you write as a ballad, everything slows down and you will put better melodies in your songs. You do this and you tend to always go, but if you did that as a ballad, you would go, now you go back to writing it at the end of your day. See, you went from being a generic blues riff, 12-bar blues, B.B. King song, to something different if that's what you want. If you want to write a 12-bar blues song, you go the other way because that's a viable way too. But in those songs don't tend to get cut in country radio. So I use the trick of, I got an idea that will sound best as a rock song, but I don't want to be the generic blues melody. So I slow it down and write a pretty melody. And I do want to talk about melody right now. It's one of the most important things. Obviously, the big things is your idea, your North Star, your melody, your lyrics. Let's take a few minutes and talk about melody. A lot of the people that I work with do an imitation of me, and they sort of make fun of the way I write, and they all know it, and they all know this is the way I do it, and they find it amusing somehow, and I'm slowly but surely cutting every one of them out of my life. But this is what I do, and this is what I recommend. It's too easy to sit down and accept whatever comes out of your mouth. We're all not Paul McCartney coming up with Yesterday in your sleep. We owe it to the song, and we owe it to the melody, and we owe it to the potential listeners to sweat a little. So let's say I'm going to write a song, and the opening line of the song is, she stood at the door and she said goodbye. So me and my collaborator, we decided, or me and nobody, if I'm writing by myself, I'll still say, all right, she stood at the door and said goodbye. The next thing I'll do is I'll go, she stood at the door and she said goodbye. And I'll go, okay, well, that's good. And this is the part that they make fun of me. Now, I will spend the next 20 minutes going, she stood at the door and she said, no, that's not right. She stood at the door and she said, no, that's not right. She stood at the door and she said goodbye. No, hold on. She stood at the door and she said goodbye. That's too low. She stood at the door. That's too high. She stood at the door and no, that's too weird. And I will go through that until I sing a melody that makes the hair on my arms go up. And it will happen. There are certain words that are in the line that you need to put the accent on. You need to say, do you want it to be, she stood at the door and she said goodbye? She stood at the door and she said goodbye. Is it, she stood at the door and said no? So you pick the words where you want the accents to be for emphasis of your emotion. And those tend to be the words that you change your notes on. She stood at the door and she said goodbye. The more you play with it, the more your melody becomes something that people will get stuck as ear candy. And it's, that's really all you want to do. You want to just stick in people's heads. You want to stick in people's heads like musical ice picks. So I come from an Italian family. That's a holiday dinner for me. And when you're doing that, you also look for things like, you look for things like money notes, money chords. They're the things that make people sit up like that and go like that. I wrote a song. I'll play a little of a song that gives you an example of all these things. This is a song, I read an article in the paper about a woman who was a single mother with a young daughter, and they moved to a house near a busy highway. And the rule was stay away from the highway. Well, she made the daughter lunch, and during lunch, a friend came over and said, come out and play. They went out and played. They got too close to the highway, and the girl got hit by a vehicle and killed. And I'm reading this. This is a terrible, horrible article. But it's so heartfelt because they talked to the mother after the fact, and the mother said, I had to spend the whole rest of the day at the hospital, at the police station, at the this and morgue, all these, just the worst day you can imagine. And she said, then when I came home, I walked in to the kitchen and I said, my first thought was, well, she can't be gone. She's got half a sandwich left. She hasn't finished her lunch. She can't be gone. And it was that moment of denial. And so I had the idea, I just said, that is a great idea for a song. So now what is my North Star for that? Since I can't write that story will break the heart of 0.00001% of the population. But everybody has had a loss where they have tried to look at any evidence that they can construe as proof that what they lost is not lost. It's that denial. You look around for anything that can give you the comfort of fooling yourself. So I thought about doing the song that way. I walked around the windows until I saw that it's basically the story. My North Star would be, it would be basically a love song. Obviously love lost, not in that way, but just if you lose somebody and you come home and you're looking for any evidence to fool yourself, my North Star ended up being, she's not gone, there's her retainer. Basically, it's as simple as that. You fool yourself, you're in denial. When I write songs, when you write songs, picture a song like a screenplay. You are introducing characters, you're introducing where, who, what is happening. How would you do that in a screenplay? And in a screenplay, you don't start the action sooner than you have to. In a movie, if a detective is going to go to a drug dealer's apartment and kick down the door and arrest him, you don't start the scene where the cop is driving around looking for an open meter on the street. And then he pays the meter, and then he goes, oh, it's an elevator. What floor is it on? You rise up. You don't. You start the scene when the door is being kicked in. So that is what I'm telling you as a songwriter. When you write a song, write it like a screenplay. I'm thinking he's going somewhere, and he's going to see evidence, just like the article that I read. He's going to see evidence of something that's going to make him go, maybe my life hasn't been turned upside down. So I'm thinking he walks in the house from outside. Now, I'm from New England. Our first room is always a mud room where you put your galoshes and your rubbers and your slickers and your coats. So that's what I envisioned. That's the window that I look through from the outside. And I know it's a slow song. And I'm looking, I'm going, what do you see? Okay, you don't want to sing galoshes. You don't want to sing coat. Hat. All right, that'd be cool. I'm thinking her hat is hanging by the door. So I do the melody thing. Her hat is hanging by the door. That's too boring. Her hat is hanging by the door. No, not quite. Her hat is hanging by the door. Oh, that's cool. That's kind of almost sounds like an English ambulance. Her hat is hanging by the door. What about the hat? I've got to express something lyrically that shows the relationship. As soon as I can get that second character in the song, the better it is. The second character is the missing woman. So I sing, the one she bought in Mexico. So right now I've established that these two people have traveled together. He knows that about that hat. So they've traveled together. It blocked the wind, it stopped the rain. She'd never leave that one. So she can't be really gone. I've figured out that the title is going to be something like She Can't Be Gone, because I read that in the article. She can't be gone. She got half the sandwich left. So, and I could have just gone, she'd never leave that one, so she can't be really gone. That's very normal. I'm looking at this point because I really like the title and the idea. I want to put it where there's a money chord or a money rhythmic thing, something, and we call it that because it's the thing that makes a song a hit and makes you money. So what I did was add a bar. She'd never leave that one, so she can't be really. I put a 6/4 bar in. Can't be really gone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I've got my form. I know every verse. Every verse is going to be end with that 6/4 bar. So I've got a little money note going in there. It's not a money note, but a little money section going in there. That's where the title's going to be. Now I know that I'm writing the song, and it's like a Dylan song where he ends every verse with the title. Tangled Up in Blue, Shelter from the Storm. That is a standard, very, very, very successful motif when you're writing a song. And you can decide that in the beginning. This is going to be a Dylan style song with the title. You know, once you come up with your title, you should take a minute and go, where does this title work the best? Is it the opening line of a song? Is it the opening line of a chorus? Is it the last line of every verse like Dylan would do? Is it the last line of a chorus? Is it every line of a chorus? And you need to really roll up your sleeves, put in the equity sweat, and try it all the different ways to find which one works, unless one idea just screams at you. As soon as I sang that part and I landed on the title, I knew that that was my structure for the rest of the house that I was going to build. Once I knew that structure, I knew what kind of house I was going to build. I know that I built it many times before, so I had that confidence going in. The only tough thing is, gone is a really hard word to rhyme, and I knew that going in. Gone, you got lawn, you got dawn. That's not a lot. So I knew I was going to have to be a little loose in the rhyme department and go for an O-N-E rhyme like one. And that's what I did. She'd never leave that one, so she can't be really gone. And I figure, you know, I have some co-writers that'll rhyme heart with tree. And if they get away with that, I'm sure I'm not going to go to songwriter jail for rhyming gone and won. So I got a verse, I've got a style, I've got a structure, I've got a few of the 2x4s laid down. Now I just need to put some more 2x4s down to see where we go. I've got them in the mudroom. What's the next thing? In this song, the simplest thing to do is he steps into the next room. It's a screenplay. What does he do? He walks in the next room. You know, in my old house, that was the living room. He looks around the living room. You got a Barca lounger. You got a TV tray with a remote on it. None of that is terribly romantic and sexy. So I just looked around and I pictured, you know, that someone had taken their shoes off in the hall to put their slippers on. So I go, okay, that's the next one. The shoes she bought on Christmas Eve. Once again, every chance I get, I need to establish that he's not walking into his aunt's house. She laughed and said they called her name. I mean, how many times have you heard that? Why did you buy that? It was screaming my name. I had to. It's like they're waiting in the hall for her to slip them on, so she can't be really gone. Same structure, plugging the words in, building the jigsaw puzzle, building the house. Don't want to mix metaphors. Not a jigsaw puzzle, it's a house. See? Don't mix metaphors. So I'm up to a second verse. Because of the structure, I already know I've got a third verse to write. And I know how I'm going to do it because it's the same structure. I'm going to take him farther into the house. So for this song, I didn't worry about what a bridge was going to be. I knew it was going to need one because it's a very short song. So I just figured, where's the next room? Bathroom? Soap dish? Scale? Not romantic. Not in a love song. Not in my love song, mister. So, you know where you're going to find the stuff that kills? The bedroom. So I take my character in my screenplay, and I walk him into the bedroom, and I close my eyes and I look around. You got the bed. You got the closet. Okay, we've done clothes. We don't need any more clothes. Comb? Maybe. You know, think. What would you do if you're looking around a bedroom? What would you do? What's in there that makes you look at it and say, oh, I know I'm joking about the North Star being she's not gone, there's her retainer. But that's the kind of thing. If he walked in and saw her retainer by the bed or her night guard by the bed, he'd go, maybe she hasn't caught a bus and left town. But retainer is hard to rhyme. So I look around and I see, in my mind's eye, a paperback book. And I think there has potential. All of this is building the house. One step at a time, because you've done it a bunch of times. Because you've done it so often, now you're just waiting for the lightning to strike. This verse is where the lightning struck for me. And this has the line that everybody loves going, how did you think of that? I didn't think of it. It popped into my head unbidden. So someone gave it to me. Her book is lying on the bed, the two of hearts to mark her page. I could have marked her page with anything. For some reason, I thought a two of hearts is a nice image. Now who could ever walk away at chapter 21? So she can't be really gone. So now I'm right up to the end. I've got my money chords and 6/4 bar to make it interesting in all three verses. I say, okay, now we're at the thing we haven't talked about. Bridge. Do you need a bridge? In this song, I felt like I did. You can get away with no bridge if you want to do a solo. If you want to do a musical bridge, you can. But in this case, there are certain kinds of bridges. There's the bridge that's sort of the palate cleanser that just sort of takes you somewhere else for a few minutes so that when you get back to the verse melody, it's like getting back to an old friend that you go, oh, I remember this. There's the I don't think I've given you enough information bridge. So you have to fill in the missing spaces so that your story is told in full. But there's also the bridge that is there's the cosmic bridge, which is basically saying, I know you think that this song is about this, but isn't it really about this? And then there's the, you get this, right? Bridge, which is, let me go over this in even plainer language, because I'm afraid you're not getting it and you're not good with adjectives. So those are the different kinds of bridges that you have to think about. What does this song need? Which of those does it need? This song doesn't need the cosmic bridge that says, you know, and really in death, aren't we all just going to be reunited? I mean, it doesn't need this. And it doesn't need the palate cleanser because I don't feel like it's had enough information. And I think because I've been so simple and the title is so clear and the North Star is so clear, I don't think I need to be the, you get this, right? And assume that people are scratching their head going, you know, what's happening in this song? So I think this is just a bridge that needs to be the more information bridge. And the more information is, how does he feel about all this? Whose fault is it? Is she gone? Is she dead? Or did she just catch a bus and leave him and leave their relationship? So I knew that it was that. This song needed more information. So in bridges, you pick what purpose does a bridge serve. You don't, too many times when I do critiques, it's too many people just write a bridge because it needs a bridge, and it basically, all the lyrics in the bridge could have just been another verse. There's nothing new. It's just another verse. Or it's the same thing that were in previous verses, sometimes not even sung all that different. Every bridge should have an element, not content lyrically, but every bridge should have an element of palate cleanser in it. When Paul Simon wrote Still Crazy After All These Years, and he got to the bridge, he said he wanted to find a note and a chord to start the bridge on that was nowhere else in the song. And so he basically went through all the notes of the key of the song up till then, and then found a note that was nowhere in the song. You know, like if it's here, that note there. And he wrote, 4 in the morning, crapped out, yawning, long in my life. See? And every time now when you listen to that song and you hear that, it makes your heart leap out of your chest. So every bridge should have an element of that. And at the very least, what I do in this bridge, it ain't no Still Crazy After All These Years, but you always try to bring the melody up. It can't be really gone. How does he feel about this? He's analyzing it. Did I do something wrong? I don't know when she'll come back. She must intend to come back when I've seen the error of my ways. Don't waste the tears on me. What more proof do you need? Just look around the room. So much of her remains. So basically, it is a little bit of a personifying and crystallizing the denial aspect of it. There's a little bit of in the bridge is where people that hear this song go, now I don't know whether she died or just left. And I like that. I wanted it to be ambiguous. And then it's a little bit of everything in this bridge, because this bridge also has you get this part in that last chorus, the last lines, which is just look around the room. So much of her remains. So it's a little bit of encapsulating the core idea of every verse. So now I've got all the elements. I feel like my story's done, but I got a 2-minute song. 2-minute song. That's not good. It's good if you're Freddie and the Dreamers and it's 1966, but for country music in the 90s, I gotta make it bigger. So I play the bridge a second time. But there's a really good trick, which is you don't play the first half of the bridge, you let that be a solo. So my solo was the first half of the bridge. And then I come back in with the second half. Just look, which are the big lines anyway. Just look around this room. So much of her remains. He's in the bedroom. What's left? He's going to go in the garage and look at oil cans? That 68 Mustang he's repairing? He can't. He's done. The emotional payoff happened in the third verse. So I sing the third verse again. Her book is lying on the bed with a couple of little changes. The 2 of hearts to marker page. Now who could ever, instead of walk, I go slip away. And instead of, at chapter 21, I go, with so much left undone. so she can't be really gone. And that could have been the end of it, but you know, a nice little emotional tag. So can't be really gone. No, she can't be really gone. I was covered in sweat. I put in a good day's work. That song was just like I like it. And I took it down the hall and I played it for my publisher, and he hated it. He hated it. He said, everybody's sad in the beginning of the song, everybody's sad at the end of the song. There's no hero. I can't tell whether she lived or she died. You sing the third verse twice. Nice try, buddy. How much are we paying you? And then I ran out of the room, weeping. And you know, by the way, I'm not amplifying my guitar. I'm just playing through a blue snowball microphone. And I hope it sounds okay. So anyway, before the song gets consigned to the cornfield, I'm a good soldier. I try to write another verse. I try to make somebody a hero. I try this, I try that, I tried. Sometimes the songs tell you when they're done. And you have to listen. Sometimes I do retreats and somebody will play me a song and I'll make these suggestions on how the song could be better. And in tiny increments of this world, I kind of know what I'm talking about. Tiny, minuscule, sliver of paper, but still. And then the next year, that same person will come to the same retreat, play me the same song, and they haven't touched it. But they've been working at it all year. And that's when you kind of go, this song is telling you it's done. You could have written 20, 30, 50 more songs in the time that you've been dicking with this one. So I said, you know what? I went to my publisher and I said, I'm sorry. This song I can't do anything more. And it went into a closet it just stuck it in the closet. And every once in a while I would play it when I would play the Bluebird. And people seemed to like it. And 7 years later, I'm sitting in a restaurant and I look up and I say, this is what's cool about Nashville. There's Tim McGraw coming and eating at this restaurant. That's very cool. And I go back to eat and I look and I go, oh, even cooler. They're going to seat him in my section so I can watch and see, how does he eat? Is he one of those chew 35 times type, or does he just swallow it whole like an anaconda? That'll be very interesting, especially since he just married my friend Faith Hill, who was my background singer, as I told you. So I thought that was really cool. I go back to eating and then I look and go, I'm going to really be able to tell because they're putting him at my table. And he sits down in front of me. And, first thing I say is, excuse me, I'm trying to finish my dinner. But I don't. I just politely say, hi, Tim McGraw. And he said, hey, I just want to let you know, we just finished the video for your song. That's the next single. And I said, I'm a professional songwriter. Talk words good. I said, what? And he said, yes, we cut Can't Be Really Gone. I'm going, cut it? How do you even hear it? He said, well, somebody that works for so-and-so heard you played it to Bluebird, and they called and they got a copy and they sent it to me, and I loved it, and now it's going to be my next single. And the song came out, and it was #1 for like 5 weeks. And I got to go into my publisher and do a little bit of this. But the point is, be careful who you get your opinions from. Let the songs tell you. Get your opinions from people who you respect. In some cases, people that are up above you in the professional food chain, their last job was in the produce department at Publix. Not that that's a bad job. That's a wonderful job. It's an essential worker right now. But as far as having expertise on what makes for a hit song, there's a huge difference between hearing that advice from somebody sitting in that chair across from you that's written tons of #1s himself, or someone that happened to play golf with the president of the company one day. So you got to be careful who you get advice from, and you have to trust your own instincts. Now, granted, after writing 1,000 songs, I have a great internal editor that tells me when I'm right and when I'm wrong, you know? And that's one of the reasons why every year, I set aside a certain amount of time every month to write by myself, because I don't want to lose that eternal editor. I don't want to always have to go, to your songwriting partner, that's good, right? I want to just be able to go, that's good. I know it's good, and I know what works because I've had it work hundreds of times, all the way up to, to number ones, and, enough success to trust my own instincts. And obviously, if you get lucky enough to write with a Harlan Howard or a Bob DiPiero or a Don Schlitz or a Carole King, you tend to shut there and go, yes, sir, whatever you say, sir or ma'am. But that's how that song happened. I do want to, do a shout out to all my friends at Songwriting with Soldiers. All of that knowledge of how to build those houses. When someone is sitting across the room from you and they want to write a song to express how they're feeling inside after coming home from their work, which is not writing songs, which is not produce at Publix, which is digging something out of the ground and hoping you don't get blown up like you did 2 or 3 times before. That's the part when they say that always kills me. Oh yeah, I've been blown up. You have to count on your fingers how many times you've been blown up. Wow. So they tend to have ideas where you don't have to walk around the house very far to see what the best approach, the best vantage point is. And we write some incredible songs, and we think that it is of service to them. We try to be. And otherwise, the songs that I try to write every day. I'm a songwriter. That's what I do. I don't know what else I would do. There's not a lot of places to put them right now, but I'm a songwriter. It's what I do. I can't read a book without coming up with song ideas. And it's too easy to be buried under the pile of Post-it notes. So every day I come down here to my studio, which looks a lot like the Country Music Hall of Fame, but it's not. And I write. So I think that's going to be it. And I think we'll do some questions. If anybody have questions, let's hear them. And I guess, what do I do? Do I type in the answers in the message thing? Or I guess if they do it, I could just talk here.
No, yeah, it's going to be perfect, Gary. So
I'll be quiet.
Yeah,
I know. I can just say it. I can just say my answers. How about if I write the answers backwards and hold them up, and you'll be able to read them?
I love that idea. But what we're going to do is we're just going to have people nominate themselves in the chat, and then I'll promote them to panelists because we're recording this and we want to record the questions as well that they get to ask. So I'll just moderate the questions and let them ask the questions to you real quick. We'll get the line going here for you.
No, I don't like that idea. What else you got?
All right, free for all. Everybody turn on your mics. Let's just go. All right.
That's crazy. That's asking for lunacy.
That's the best way we do it here at Soldier Songs.
Okay, I'm in. It's going pretty good so far.
Okay, guys, would somebody like to ask a question?
All right, somebody's got one.
Okay, we've got Craig, and then we've got Grover.
There we go. Hello?
Hi, Craig.
Sorry about that. I've been doing it on my computer. I'm having to be on my phone and was a little confused there for a second. Man, what a fantastic session. Thank you so very much. That was there was some amazing, just the imagery in your descriptions was fantastic. Quick question, and you kind of glossed over it really quickly, and it's one of my biggest curiosities. How did you go from Connecticut electrician to #1 song. Well, tell me, I'd love to hear a little bit about the process of, I don't know, promotion, marketing. How did anyone hear Love's Been a Little Bit Hard on Me? So you went from Kinetic Electricity to Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder.
All right, let me explain, Lucy. So I'm in this band and I'm writing songs, and they're crappy, less crappy, average, a little better than average, until I get to the point where one of the guys in the band says to me, these songs sound like they could be on the radio. You should do something with them. So I borrowed $600 from my brother, and I went to a little recording studio in West Hartford, and I recorded 2 of my 2 best songs. And I went, this is back, reel-to-reel tape.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the, this is bearskins and stone knives shit. I went to the record store and I picked up every record, flipped it over, and wrote down the address of the record company. And then I put a tape in an envelope and I sent it to A&R department, CBS Records, the address, and I sent them off. I sent 12 of them off. And shockingly, I got 11. Everyone responded. This was back.
Wow.
What does that tell you about those days when you could walk in places and they would be happy to see you because there weren't a lot of you like there are now. But I got 10 no's. I got 1 letter from a lady at Warner's, I believe, named Mary Martin. I don't know if you know who that is. Mary Martin is a woman that put the band together with Dylan. She's like a legend. And her letter said, "There's something wrong with this tape. The songs are so fast, they made me nervous." So I thought that was awesome. It was no, but it was the best no you could ever get. And I got my 12th letter was, "There's something here. Call me. Harold." And I called, and he worked at CBS Records, and he became my mentor. He's the guy that guided me and how, maybe try this, try that. And he's the guy that partnered with another guy that lived in New Jersey, and he was a gambler. He would go to Atlantic City, and if he lost, we were shit out of luck. But if he won, I got to do a demo session. So he won. I went in, did a demo session, recorded. Let me back up for a second. This Harold guy actually took those songs and got me a record deal. And that was a record deal in 1978. The record company went out of business. And then we said, let's just work on songs. And the first demo session we did Love's Been a Little Bit Hard on Me, and another pop ballad called Make My Life With You that the Oak Ridge Boys took to #1 on country. And that was my first country #1. And all of a sudden, everybody in Nashville knew who I was. So I stayed in Connecticut sending songs through the mail via my friend Harold for the next, till 1989. And through the mail, I had probably 5 hits. And I didn't move to Nashville until I had already had 4 or 5 big hits. So that's how it happened.
What an amazing story. Thank you. That was interesting. Thank you.
Okay, I made it up. None of that actually happened. No, I'm kidding. All right.
All right, Chris, if you want to go ahead with your question.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, got it.
There you go.
That was an awesome presentation. Thank you very much. I've added like 4 or 5 things to my Reveilleisms, but my question goes back to the elevator pitch, the 5 words. Do you ask yourself like a series of questions to get to those 5 words, or do they just like pop out?
They don't just pop out. You have to find the right ones. I have a good exercise would be pick your 5 favorite songs and try to come up with the elevator pitch for each of those songs and try to figure out what it comes down to. It takes a little time to get it down to as few as possible and as interesting as possible, because you don't want it to just, your 5 words be, I love you so much. You know, I have a song called "To Be Loved by You," basically, and it goes, you know, let the mountains rise, I will climb them all. And basically, that's the premise of the song. And if I had to think of a North Star, it would be lava between us, I'm jumping. And I would write that at the top, because you won't forget what you mean if you write that. If there's a flow of lava between you and me, I'm going to risk jumping it because I have to be with you. So that's what you do. You basically just try to make it as fun and as easy to understand as possible. And it really comes down to those windows. You look around, once you decide on how you're going to write your song and what the angle is, you just try to say, and if somebody asks you, what is this song about? How long does it? I've asked people that, what is this song about? And they have started to tell me, and I've gone, whoa, you're on your 3rd sentence. If it takes 3 sentences to tell what a song is about, it's a bad song. So just try to get it down to, what can you tell somebody when they say, what is this song about?
Perfect. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, Bob, are you ready with your question?
Yes. I'm also from San Antonio, and I kind of get stuck. I write the framework of the house and get stuck trying to write the rooms and the decorations that go with it. How should I go ahead and proceed to get to the right area?
A good way is to do the screenplay thing I was thinking about. You make people act like real people act. Remember to make people in your songs talk the way real people talk. At the end of every time I write a song, I do 2 things with the lyric. I go through it to make sure every adjective and adverb I put in there is the best one. You don't want to write a song and it says, the guy sat on the stool drinking a beer. You want your song to be, old Joe sat on the cracked leather seat nursing a red stripe. It tells you, oh, he might not be, he might be somewhere interesting. It so much more description. And then when I'm done with my lyric, I read it from the top like I'm in an acting class and I'm doing a monologue. Every song, when you read it, should be emotionally like you're reading a scene from a screenplay. It should ebb and flow like that. You should treat it like it's a monologue. Write simple and then expand. Write as simply as you can with your lyrics and the way people move and talk, and then grow it out from there. For me, it's also what you take in, who you listen to, what you read. If I read a certain author for a few days, I will start writing lyrically in a slightly different style, because it'll sort of rub off on me. It'll go away, but then until the next guy. And it's all about, what comes in. What are you getting stuck on? I mean, are you writing the songs and you don't think that they are meaningful enough? Are you having trouble even starting on the lyrics? Where do you get hung up?
Well, of be telling a story, but I don't put them into rhyming schemes or anything like that. I just write, and when I look at it, I try to break it down to each and every verse and try to see what I can do from there. But it's after I get out of the military, I worked as an athletic trainer for 25 years. So getting into music in 2013 was a big thing. And then that's when I started writing some songs. And last year's retreat helped me do some more, and I've written a lot more, but it's hard to do it by yourself.
Yep. Well, here's something you can do. Pick a song that you like. I don't care if it's Oh Susanna. I don't care if it's Up, Up and Away. Pick a song that you like and figure out the rhythm of the lines of the verses. Camptown, like Camptown ladies sing this song, da da bum 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 bum. Then don't worry about quality or anything. Practice writing words with those number of beats. So many people I hear from that have the same problem that you do. They're writing basically all this poetry and there's no structure to it. There's no meter. There's no repetition to it. And that's because you have a default and you go to your default. Everybody has a default rhythm. If left to my own devices, every song of mine would have the same rhythm because it's a default. I have to force myself to not do that. And then once I get in, today I'm going to write a song that goes da 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 bum 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 bum. Okay. And don't worry about if the song is good, bad. It's an exercise to build your muscle. You're a trainer, you're physical. You need to exercise to burn for that muscle memory. And your muscle memory will be da da ba 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 ba. Then write the simplest lyric you can, and not only force yourself to write in that cadence, but force yourself to rhyme. Keep it simple. I bump a heart, a bone that done where to start, my spleen, in between. Just force yourself to do that, and it is rudimentary, but it is very valuable to keep yourself from going to your default where all you're writing is random rhythmic poetry.
Thank you.
And then it got quiet. Too quiet.
I'm sorry. I'm slow.
Hey, Daniel, are you ready with your question?
Sure. Am I unmuted? Can you guys hear me?
You're ready to go.
Okay, cool. I am interested in the search for melody. I understand trying all of the different things that you possibly can until you can find something that hits you, that feels right, that does something for you. But what are the notes that you're trying? Did you write lyrics first and then get a feel and then get a set of chords you want to use, and now you're searching within chord tones for the melody? Or what notes do you choose from?
Every writer does it differently, I'm sure. I don't like to have a whole song of do-do-dee-dee-do-do, and then I have to figure out what to sing, what words match which do-do. I like having at least a chunk of lyric first. So, like I said in the example, if it's, she stood at the door and said goodbye, I have that as a framework. Everybody has the right keys where they sing the best. But too many people that play me songs, the melodies are just too linear. They don't go anywhere. There's words in every sentence that have to be accented. There are notes that you don't put in songs. It really comes from experience of doing it for so long.
Okay.
That you're literally going. She stood at the door and said goodbye. She stood at the door and said goodbye. You're really just experimenting. It's tough to do if you don't have enough musical knowledge to know that ain't right. As long as you know that ain't right, everything else is fair game. I hear songs on the radio now written by some of these young writers that have that the melodies go to these notes that I go, I would have never thought to go there, but that's what makes it cool. Am I on it for you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It really is. You got to know what doesn't work, and that comes from having some basic knowledge of music to know that's, unless you're avant-garde. Orchestral music, but really it's just trying to find what makes the hair on your arm stand up.
Okay, cool.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Grover, are you ready with your question?
I am ready. All right, Gary, I loved your presentation. Thank you. You and I are real close to the same age. 40 years ago, I was playing in a regional band out of Tulsa. And some of the guys went to Nashville, the country scene. I went to the West Coast, they went to Nashville. I ended up back in Oklahoma, but round trip. But some of them are still in Nashville, and they tell me, I'm trying to figure this out because a couple of them are songwriters, and they tell me every bellhop and waiter is a hell of a musician for the most part. And it's a lot tougher row to hoe. I wondered did you go back to Connecticut before you actually did it as a songwriter? How were you submitting your music? I write music just basically the same way you were saying, except I never did the window thing around the barn, and I like that. But I start out with lyrics or a chunk of lyrics. I find a chord pattern that works, but I did go to college for music. But I threw all that shit away too a long time ago.
Yeah, that could be more trouble than it's worth.
Ear training, yeah, it was more trouble than it was worth. But I kept the ear training and all that stuff because it let me know that chord don't work.
Yeah, this.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, but what happened was, it was a stroke of luck for me. It was a stroke of luck that 12th guy liked what I did and said, let me help you. And he built this infrastructure where he was sending out 100 of my tapes of my songs a week to everyone he knew in the business. And he knew a lot of people. So I remained in Connecticut writing songs in my basement. And he'd call me up and go, okay, Billy Joe Royal just recorded one of your songs. Oh, that's great. And it would be a hit. And I'd go, wow. And I'm still sitting in my basement. I had Love's Been, the Juice Newton pop hit. Yeah. So I was able to not work for a living other than writing songs. So every day, kids off to school, go in the basement, write songs. And I'd get a phone call. Oak Ridge Boys cut your song. Great. In the beginning, I thought it was really easy. You just, the phone rings and somebody cuts your song, and next thing you know, you're in the top 5. But all of that happened with a stroke of luck. Once you get in that door by having a hit, everything you send to the people in Nashville goes on a separate pile. There's this stuff that comes from who knows where, and they have people on staff that'll listen to it because that's you might find a me in there because somebody did. But guys that have had a hit or two, they go on the special pile that gets listened to first and more seriously. But I stayed in Connecticut right up until 1989. And that was when so much was happening, and I started going down to co-write with people and to network, and I started going down once every couple of months, and then I started going down once a month, and then I was going down 2 weeks out of the month until finally I just said, I have to live there. That's where my future is. So I moved from Connecticut down to Nashville in 1989, and somewhere along that way, I got signed to better and better and more powerful publishing companies as I had more songs on the radio. A deal would come up, and then another publishing company, better, would say, come work for us. So I worked my way up to working for Universal, and that's when, during the 90s, I would have 3 songs in the top 10 at once, and all the craziness was going on. But I was able to do so much. I was able to do this much from staying in Connecticut, and I didn't know how rare that was to be able to pull off. There's only like a couple, like me and Hugh Presswood in Long Island are like the only guys that really had country songwriting careers
outside of Nashville
through the mail.
Yeah.
And I was through the mail until I felt like I was missing too much, too many opportunities. And then I came down here, and it did blow wide open by me being here. And
congratulations, and thank you.
You got it. Thank you. I think the boss went to sleep.
Okay, guys, is there anyone else that would like to ask a question? Otherwise, I think we'll just let you wrap it on up, Gary.
Okay. How do people tend to wrap up something like this? I want to thank you all for listening and putting up with it. And, if you have other questions, I have, if you go to a website called www.writesonsgood, that's my songwriting website. And I've got, free videos on there about songwriting and things like that. That's www.writesonsgood. If you're a vet, thank you for your service.
Hey, Gary. This is Reveille Actual. Would you mind just telling folks about the Songwriting with Soldiers program briefly?
Absolutely. www.songwriting with soldiers. And before the shutdown, we would go for a weekend, and soldiers would come, and we would be paired off with them. And we're not therapists, but they have learned that getting them to open up about their experiences, turning it into a song that you then that night play in front of all the soldiers, and they all have similar experiences, and it's everybody in the room is crying and nodding their head and patting the writer, the soldier writer on the back, and it's an amazing experience. I've written some wonderful, wonderful, heartfelt songs there. Songwriting with Soldiers, you should check it out. It's a wonderful organization that has done amazing work.
Thank you so much for your time, guys. And we're going to turn it back over to the radio for a little while. We've got the one-on-one sessions going on throughout the afternoon. And just be back to join us at 12 for Susan Gibson's presentation.